Ladies and gentlemen, this week's guest on the Working in Hockey podcast has graced your social media feeds plenty. He's got almost 5 million likes on TikTok. He's got over 1,000 posts on Instagram. But today, Lucas and I are pleased to be his first podcast appearance. Kazxi, welcome to the Working in Hockey podcast. How you doing today, man?
How's it going, y'all? Thanks for having me. Appreciate y'all.
First.
Super
Excited
excited to
to
chat.
excited to get into your story a little bit here. Excited to be the first podcast that you're blessing the feed with here. I think just about everybody's seen your content in some way, shape, or form. Even the Hudson brothers, as we just saw in a recent Bauer video, have seen your content and know who you are. But for those who maybe don't know your story or your background as much, Kazxi, how did you first kind of get into hockey? How did you first get into hockey content creation, and where did this journey sort of take off for you?
Yeah, definitely. So I've always been an athlete. I played just about every sport growing up, but hockey. Hockey was never on my radar really at all until around 2020. That's when I first started watching hockey. I was living in Tampa at the time, and
Good
Tampa Bay
memory.
Lightning made their Stanley Cup run, which became back to back, and then obviously the third one that they lost. But yeah, that's really what got me watching hockey and kind of put hockey on my radar for the first time. From there, things just kind of aligned. I actually started working for a hockey video game studio while I was first starting watching hockey, and I was creating content for them. And then naturally, I just kind of started making some actual hockey content. Realized that I'm loving watching this sport that I've never played before. I'm working for a hockey video game. Why not try and learn how to play? So it's been about 2 years now since I bought my first hockey stick, and yeah, the rest is history.
Yeah, that's awesome. And was there any like you touched on kind of just slowly getting into it through the Tampa Bay Lightning and falling in love with kind of watching the game first, but was there any elaborate strategy or anything that led you to creating hockey content? Was it maybe that there wasn't as many creators within hockey as other sports, or was it purely just, hey, I love playing this, I'm going to start making videos on it?
Yeah. So funny enough, the whole content, and actually, I got a TikTok notification today that I posted my first TikTok video today, 3 years ago.
No way.
So funny enough, but so I actually started doing the video game content before anything else. So I was creating this hockey content on this video game. Again, at this point, I don't know anything about hockey. Like I'm just starting to watch it for the first time. Um, and what really got me to start making content was this video game that I was playing was super small, super niche, and not many people were playing it. So I was like, how can I try and help essentially market this for free? So that's what I did. I started my social media doing content around this video game, and like locked in. I kind of made a deal with myself to do 30 days straight and just see where it went from there. And those first 30 days were pretty slow. I did not know what I was doing. I literally just downloaded TikTok. I didn't even have TikTok at the time. I wasn't like a consumer. I was just like, shoot, I want to make some content. So yeah, so I started making content on that. 3 months after doing that, the developers of that game actually reached out to me and hired me full time. So I left my job and started doing full time content 3 months after making my first ever social media post. And then from there, it just kind of, I was really enjoying making content and wanted to learn how to play, and kind of was able to intertwine the two because it kind of aligned with what I was already making. So I kind of was able to share my IRL experiences and kind of connect them to my, virtual experiences as well.
That's awesome, and I think it's so cool how it kind of just naturally came to be there, and
Mhm.
no plans or grand ambitions of making it happen that way, but that tends to be how the good things go. Similar kind of question there, I guess, on strategy or thought behind it. Was there a point in those early days of making videos, or I guess at any point along the way that you tried to hone in on a specific demographic, target audience, or you just enjoying making content, keep putting it out there, and put out what you like to watch?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I didn't really think about demographics or like who I was trying to reach. I think more so I was just trying to make content that I found entertaining. I got really addicted to just social media in general, not necessarily again as a consumer, but more as like, how does it work? How do these algorithms work? How does
Studying
the
it.
attention work? How do you go viral versus like what makes a post good and gonna do, real numbers versus what makes a post flop? So I got, when I first like kind of started taking it serious and was like, shoot, like I can actually make something out of this. I did just so much research on all of that, how attention works, how to grab attention. So I think more than focusing on like who I was reaching, I was more focused on whoever it is, doesn't matter who, how can I lock in their attention immediately?
Yeah, that's so interesting, and I think it, speaks to the level of thought and planning and kind of research or studying that goes into it. And I want to get into that a little bit later because I think
Mhm.
your content grabs anybody's attention as well as anybody in hockey or social media in general. But one thing I was always taught in business classes in university and stuff that stuck with me, and I think TikTok and social media in general really kind of go against it. I always had teachers say like, don't make things for kids. They don't have wallets or they don't have bank accounts or whatever it
Mm.
is, right? But we look at social media today, what influencers and creators are able to spin off, whether it's a Prime or a Feastables, or even just being with you at the Wish Cup and seeing how many kids come up and flock to you and Nasher and not Lucas or myself, but you and Nash or whoever
Definitely
else
not.
it may be. Um, do you have any sort of thought on tailoring things towards youth, next generation, otherwise? Because I know your content is friendly, it does grab people's attention, but I still think that applies to everybody too.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny that you asked that because I never have made my content thinking that this is for kids. Like never was that necessarily my intention. I've always kept all of my content PG, and that's more so honestly that kind of came naturally. Like I grew up in a very religious household and I don't use cursing in my day-to-day like at all. So it was already natural to not have that in my content. Um but yeah, I never really necessarily was making it directly for the kids. It just kind of shifted that way, and you kind of see some stuff maybe is now more so aimed at them a little bit more depending on what it is. Um, but I don't think that I ever really like thought about that too much, to be honest.
No, I think that's a good thing.
Yeah. And I mean, obviously, you've grown quite the audience on various platforms since you started with 140,000 followers on TikTok to over 50,000 on Instagram. You talked about the research and studying like behind what makes video do well and what you've noticed trends in your own videos that you've posted. Is there one platform you prefer posting on, and which was the hardest for you to kind of figure out, as you mentioned in the analytics and figuring out what makes things work on
Mhm.
social? Was there one that was maybe more of a struggle than the other?
Yeah, so it's a good question. So they're all so similar yet so different at the exact same time. I post all of my content across platforms, so TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. It's the same exact video. It's just on Reels or Shorts. Before anything else, I started the TikTok. I did the TikTok for almost a whole year before I even downloaded Instagram or YouTube, which was a mistake. New content creators, lock in on all three of them from the jump. I set myself so far back from not doing that because it only takes an extra 5 minutes to post it on all of them. But anyways, with that being said, Instagram or TikTok, sorry, is what I like learned first. That's what I was posting on for a full year beforehand. And it's funny now even to see the different interactions in the comments. Like TikTok, I post a video within 30 seconds, there's 10 comments, first, will he reply? Like the kids are on TikTok and you definitely see that. Whereas Instagram, the comments aren't nearly as often. When they do come in, you will notice it is an older demographic. And YouTube's hard to tell because like it's not set up the same way where you can't really see who they are on YouTube. But yeah, I think TikTok was like definitely the easiest at first just because it's what I learned how to do. And I also think that they have like honed in on their algorithm better than any other platform. I think they've really figured out how to, or at least I figured out how to reach a certain target of hockey players, people interested in hockey on TikTok a lot easier than the other platforms. But at the end of the day, it is kind of random and it is interesting because even now, like again, I'll post all three videos on all three platforms. It might do 10K on TikTok. My most recent video, for example, I think it has 100,000 on TikTok, but it did 500,000 on Instagram and then maybe 20 on YouTube. And another post will be the exact opposite. It'll blow up on YouTube, but nowhere else. So like it's kind of random. It's almost like a lottery in a way. You're kind of putting out your ticket. And so posting on all three is buying three tickets and it might pop on one, but not the others. It's like, it's kind of random. It's kind of calculated, but yeah, I would say TikTok definitely is the easiest one for me, just being the platform that I had the most experience in and the platform that I was really focusing on.
That's super interesting. And like, is there maybe a platform that you haven't tried yet, like a Snapchat or something like that, that you're looking to expand to? Or is there a content style maybe that you haven't tried yet that is something that you're looking to test out?
Snapchat's definitely something that I've been curious about because I hear there's a lot of money in it, but I don't use Snapchat. I deleted my Snapchat a while back when they kept sending me those stupid Snapchats from Team Snapchat. I'm like,
Every
forget
day.
this. I'm out
Ugh,
of there. So I uninstalled that. And it's just to me like everything Snapchat has, like Instagram stories has. So I haven't ever bothered venturing into it, but definitely could be something I could potentially be interested in. But would be a totally different learning curve for sure. Um, Other than that, I didn't do any long form content until like literally this past year. And that's kind of been a focus shift for me recently is trying to do more long form content. So that's still kind of a learning curve. It's definitely different making grabbing someone's attention for 1 minute versus grabbing someone's attention for 15 minutes.
For
It's a
sure.
totally different game.
Yeah, that's super interesting. And I think to echo really what you said about making sure you post on every platform, like that's one of the biggest hurdles that we had historically with Hockey Collective is we made Hockey Collective when Instagram was really the only spot that anything was. TikTok wasn't out yet. Twitter was like a weird political place.
Yeah.
Facebook was for old people. We really only had Instagram. So, Instagram's sitting at 500,000, but TikTok, we can't get anything going when it first comes
Mm,
out, or
yeah.
Facebook. And then it's like, okay, well, we have a different audience here. Let's not post this here. That is the worst thing you could ever tell anybody. Like you said, post it everywhere.
Yeah.
It's buying more
Absolutely.
tickets to the lottery, to the dance. It's giving you more chances. But man, I think the one thing that you do truly better than anybody in hockey, and really anybody that I watch and consume on social media, is your hook, your introductions, your attention grabbing moments. What you do is not inauthentic. It's not forced. It's not cringy like majority of intros or hooks online. It's about what's happening. It's real. It's you. It's authentic. But it still catches your eye. Whether it's day 36 of learning how to play hockey or cut an inch off my stick every time I score, all these different sort of challenges, intros, hooks that you have. How much thought goes into those? Because I think that's really what allows your content to play to so many people is a kid's interested in the challenge, but a dad is interested in, hey, I want to see how his skill compares with this or whatever it may be.
Mhm. Yeah, no, the hook is 100% the most focused part of any video. Like 99% of my videos are freestyled. I don't script really anything
That's awesome.
except the hook and maybe the closer, if even. The closers are kind of easy, but the hook is 100% the biggest focus. I mean, especially on short form content, like people are just swiping through, right? Like super quick. And I am too. Like the way that I go through is so fast. If my attention is not grabbed instantly, I'm out. I'm on to the next one. No matter how great that video is going to be or how much time you spent on, the rest of the video, if your first 3 seconds of that video do not instantly get someone curious, the rest of it's useless. Like you just wasted your time. So, definitely the biggest focus of any video for me is my hook.
Yeah, and I think like you said, it's something that when you're scrolling through, it's like instant or you're just not even gonna take into account what you're
Mhm.
watching, right? So it's really about grabbing that initial attention. And like Nick said, it's something that we both feel like you've absolutely crushed. And I think that's why you're seeing a lot of that success. And I think it goes to the fact of what you mentioned earlier of really like learning from your experiences of past videos. You've probably seen that as something that really helps your performance, and now you're kind of reusing that on all your videos, which has seen a lot of success. So I'd love to dive a little deeper into like the business side of being a creator. Obviously, no need to go into specific brand deals or partnerships or anything like that, but can you educate our listeners on how you go about finding a brand willing to sponsor a video or partner up, and how you ensure that you execute in a meaningful way that keeps them obviously satisfied and wanting to work again in the future?
Yeah, for sure. So that's kind of the biggest thing is how do you go from making videos on the internet for fun to being able to get paid for it and actually make money without just being a total sellout? That's definitely the balance of things. As far as finding brands, I mean, I think for me, a lot of times it's any brand that I like I'm going to try and ideally promote and get paid to promote products that I'm already using or already enjoy using so that it is natural and it's not just okay I'm going to sell out to whoever's has the most money kind of thing.
For sure.
So I think that's a big thing, using brands that you truly do believe in. I think it's also a lot easier to promote a brand when you do believe in what they're doing or what that product is, like if it's not something that you can really get behind, it's going to be very obvious in your video. Um, as far as brand outreach goes, I mean, this is definitely something that like I just kind of learned from trial and error, just like the hooks, like literally just trying a bunch of things, sending out a million emails, sending out a million DMs, seeing which ones get the responses. Some of it's copy and paste, but I'm also the type to spend an extra 15 minutes to manually write out an email and compliment something that I saw they did or whatever, so that it is personalized and it's not just a mass email going out to a bunch of different brands.
Yeah, I think those, we've all received those, right? On
Hmm.
the other end of things where it's like, "Hey, this wasn't made for me," or
Hmm.
it's not personal, it doesn't feel right. I completely agree with your philosophy there on it. I think one thing you said about kind of, leaning into the brands you do like, I see a lot of people online these days kind of being like, "I tag Lululemon in my last 40 posts because I always wear their sweaters. They haven't reached out to me. Like, what are we doing?" It's like, okay, well, that's Lululemon. Like, do they need you? You need them. Like,
Right.
what's the kind of, the balance or the line there? My suggestion is always to kind of start with smaller brands and like
Hmm.
localized products.
Definitely.
There's a local coffee shop. Perfect. Buy their coffee, make that coffee in your morning routine video for 2 weeks, and then talk to them about something. Is that sort of how you look at that? And I guess in terms of value, what do you look for currently where you are today in terms of a valuable partner?
Yeah, I mean, I to answer your first question, I definitely think starting with the smaller brands, obviously shooting a DM to a small hockey brand with 5,000 followers on Instagram, your odds of a response are a million times higher than Lululemon with their 2.5 million, however many followers they have. Uh, so yeah, 100% thinking starting with the smaller brands, and the thing is too, you can think about like, for example, we talked about now that I've been able to work with Bauer. I did not have Bauer's attention for the longest time. Like I was not able to get any time of day and I had to make so many videos on Bauer products, or maybe I partnered with Pure Hockey to highlight a stick, that was a Bauer stick, and that video had to go do millions of views before finally, okay, now they're reaching out to me, kind of thing. So I think figuring out ways to promote those brands that you want to work for without necessarily getting paid to do so is another big way to kind of show them like, hey, here's what I can do, here's the value that I can provide, and here's your brand as the actual, here's proof that I can market your brand. Is like there's no better resume than, hey, look at this, piece of content that did this many views on your product. Let's do this for your next launch, kind of thing. So that's definitely like, I think the biggest way to get a brand's attention obviously is to create brand related content. If it's their brand, it's even better. Moving on to like what I'm looking for in brands, I mean, I think it definitely depends on what the brand is, but more than anything, like again, it's got to be someone that I like, that I respect, and that I like their products and see the vision that they're going for. Um, yeah, that's I guess that's the main things I kind of look for. And obviously, it does come down to money as well, because another problem is the smaller brands are not going to quite have as big of a budget. So it's kind of one of those things that you work your way up, right? You start with those smaller brands that don't have a very big budget, or maybe no budget at all. You start to build up this portfolio of content, and these followers start to come in. Well, now you're a lot more valuable to brands once you have somebody to show for it. So I think it just
Yeah.
kind of all comes in levels.
Well, and I think kind of what you mentioned earlier, but a spin-off is like you mentioned almost working for these brands, promoting their products, but maybe through other opportunities, like you said with Pure Hockey, for example. And I think another one there that obviously myself being in the influencer space, like on more on the brand side of things, is like a lot of times doing these opportunities may be unpaid for the initial time
Mhm.
and then showing your worth that way and being like, here's what I can create. And then at least that time, it's the next time, sorry, it's easier for the brand to come back and be like, oh, we really loved what you did here. Obviously, we want to now compensate you moving forward. So
Exactly.
I completely agree there. Do you have a specific strategy that you utilize to determine like pricing for things, or have you gone maybe off of what you've talked to other creators about? Because I know a lot of creators early when I talk to them aren't even sure what they should be charging. So is how did you learn that and how did you
Yeah,
navigate
yeah,
that?
that's definitely the hard part and a tricky topic. Um, it's another one of those things that's kind of trial and error, and kind of back to even what you had just mentioned about doing that first one for free and then moving on from there. That was like my go-to strategy to land deals. Is like, let me make a good first impression. Let me show you what I'm capable of. I'll take some gear in exchange and we'll hit, a couple 100,000 views and boom. Like if I'm able to hit that 100,000 views, whatever, most of the time they are coming back and saying, "Hey, let's do another." And then I can say, "Hey, yeah, let's do it." But, you know,
Exactly.
let's see some money here. But yeah, I think figuring out what to charge, like, you can use the internet as much as possible, but like even now, if I Google, with my amount of followers, how much can I charge per post? The range is so absurd and it does depend on your niche. So it is a really tricky thing. I think the biggest thing is kind of just trial and error. Figuring out what I can get from different brands, talking to people a little bit. I truthfully have not asked many other creators what they're charging people because it is just kind of a taboo, kind of question. But yeah, I think just kind of, basing it on different things as well as like effort level and how much time it's going to take me. And then being able to scale it up with a certain reach that I can expect to hit kind of thing.
Yeah. I think that's well said, super insightful, and, honestly, from my experience, and I think you guys can probably both attest to, like, you never really price yourself out of these conversations. Nobody says no, like, never talking to you again on that
Hmm.
first conversation. There's things that I used to quote 5 grand, and it'd be like, "Are you crazy?" Or 10 grand, and it'd be like, "What, are you nuts?" And then
Exactly.
maybe you settle somewhere else, but usually that first number isn't the end all be all. They continue to have a conversation, so I know a lot of people get hung up on that and scared of that is I don't wanna say X, and then they walk away and I never get another brand deal. There's usually another kick there, so don't be afraid to make mistakes there, right?
For sure. And you can also, like, it definitely varies. Like, you obviously want to try and get them to say the number first, and obviously they want to get you to say the number. It's a whole game at the end of the day. I think a funny story I have on that, one of the first brand deals I did that was like with a bigger company, it was for Verizon for an
Mm,
NHL collab they had, and some random agency had reached out to me, asked me what I charge, and I told him a pretty low number. Um, and then on the phone, she was like, "Okay, well, we can actually do a little bit more. I have a little bit more budget with you, so this is what we'll do." And it was almost double what I
thank
asked
you.
for. And
Yeah.
then, like a couple days later, she shoots me an email. I was like, "Actually, the budget's even higher. We're gonna give you this amount." And I was just like, "Oh, I can be charging this?" And yeah, so she bumped up. Her number was triple my first number.
No way.
And that
Cool.
was kind of an eye opener of like, okay, I can work a little less hard. I don't need to do as many brand deals if I'm charging this number. So that was kind of just a funny, like, eye opener situation that I had.
And I think it kind of goes back to what you mentioned before about like not necessarily wanting to sell out. And if you're able to secure maybe a bit more money on certain deals, you're able to put more time and effort into these deals,
Exactly.
which then the product comes out better. So at the end of the day, as a creator, that is like, that's your salary, right? Like that's your
Right.
money. A lot of times brands might be tough on certain pricing, but the important thing to remember is like this is your income. Like
Yeah,
they want to
absolutely.
charge a rate that's fair to them, and I totally get that. I mean,
Yeah.
to tap back into the content a bit, what is your creative process like? Are you thinking of videos weeks in advance, or is it something that you're just day to day kind of like, oh, I'd like to film this? Like, how do you do that? And then what is the editing process like? Kind of break
Yeah.
down how a video goes start to finish.
Yeah, yeah. So it definitely varies. Obviously, short form and long form are totally different processes too. My long form is much more planned out and methodical. I think I have a whiteboard on my wall here. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, almost 15 of my next videos are all on that board of like, here's what's happening, here's what I'm gonna do, here's who's editing it, here's whatever. So YouTube is definitely a little bit more methodical and a little bit more planned out. Whereas short form, it is just kind of day to day. It kind of varies from season to season, like what's going on. Like this past summer, I was like fully locked in on roller hockey. Me and my boy Zach, who Nick you met, we're filming a ton of content, like 3 days a week. We'd film for an hour or two, and we were at a point where when we were doing that together, I was able to film probably like 8 videos in a single day, take another day to edit it, and I could have 2 weeks worth of content after just one filming day and one editing day. And that's like best case scenario. That was super smooth this summer. It gave me a lot of extra time for other things, which was nice. Other times I'm kind of scrambling, like, shoot, I need to film something. I don't have a post for today. And so, like, it definitely varies. As far as editing and all that goes, I have done 99% of all of my editing, long form and short form. The other 1% is the last 8 or 9 months or so. I've been trying to hire an editor. I've gone through 5 or so different people. And I have 2 different guys who are doing test stuff right now, one of which seems really promising. So fingers crossed. I'm hoping to take a little bit of that long form workload off of myself so I can focus on other things as well as just be able to film more. But for the most part, I've done pretty much all of my own editing, short form and long form.
You touch on kind of the ebbs and flows of the season and filming and when you find the most content. I think creators in general, but just about everybody in the social media age feels or experiences some sort of burnout or different times. How do you sort of manage, tackle, or plan ahead to, try to make sure that you are in a good creative mindset, not
Definitely.
burnt out over your content?
Yeah, that's definitely a tough thing. So, from that post that I made 3 years ago today, I have pretty much posted every single
Every day.
day for 3 years now. I think my Instagram I started, about a year after, and I think I'm at quite literally exactly 1,000 posts, which is slightly more than 1 a day average. So, it is definitely an exhausting, never-ending cycle, and that can be very prone to burnout. For me, the long form, I went from doing short form, like 30-second videos, minute maximum, for 2 years straight to being like, okay, I want to try YouTube. I want to try to get into long form stuff, but I don't know how to edit, truly beyond a minute. I don't know what I'm doing. So I'm just trying to figure this stuff out. Meanwhile, I'm trying to post 1 to 2 short form videos a day and one YouTube video a week. And I'm trying to hire people, but it's becoming more work because really I'm having to hold their hand through it and teach them while also editing another project. So I definitely experienced a bit of burnout this last year around this time when I was really grinding the YouTube stuff, posting a video every single week. I think my biggest thing is I found that if I'm not feeling it, I'm just not going to do it. Like, in the sense of like YouTube editing, if I don't feel like editing right now, I can't edit because it's not going to turn out good. I have to seize those creative moments when they come, and a lot of time for me, that's like 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. Like, that's my creative spurt. I'm gonna edit for 4 hours on YouTube, and I'm gonna wake up at 10 a.m. the next morning, like sleep in. So for me, yeah, it's kind of been like I have to just edit when I'm feeling motivated, and sometimes I'm not. And so sometimes there's a couple days where I'm not, and that's why I try and ideally shoot 4 or 5 videos in the same day so that I can crunch them all out and have 5 days in a row to where if I wanted to take the 5 days and not post a single piece of content, you would have no idea that I haven't been, working on content the last 5 days. So that's one thing I've tried to do to try to help me with the burnout. Obviously, either way, it is just like a never ending process, which is really exhausting. Um, but yeah, that's kind of been my way of going about it.
Yeah, I think obviously being organized is something that really helps in that regard because then you can go back and be like, okay, I did pre-plan these videos and I
Hmm.
have some on deck. Or maybe you get sick and you're like, okay, at least I
Right,
have stuff that people, like you said, won't even know that I haven't been
right,
filming because I have a lot banked.
exactly.
So
Yeah.
you mentioned obviously being around 1,000 posts on Instagram, obviously a bunch on YouTube, TikTok. Do you have a favorite piece of content that you have ever put out? Is there anything
I've
that stands out in that sense?
Yeah, if I had to pick, that's kind of tough. I would say the long form stuff I'm more proud of because it was a lot more work. I mean, the amount of time that long form versus short form takes is insane. I mean, I've gotten pretty fast now to like a lot of my brand deals, my short form ads, I can crunch them out in an hour or two. And like that's great. And then maybe another 30 to an hour of actual filming. So we're talking 3 hours all in, post is ready to go. YouTube's a totally different beast. Like a 20-minute video is going to take me 40 hours. Like, and normally I can't do that in 40 hours straight because I'm not motivated to edit one video for 40 hours straight. Like it's nice and easy to focus on one thing for a couple hours, but to focus on that same thing for 2 3 week span, that's what's really tiring. Thinking long form here because that's the stuff that I'm the most proud of, put the most work in. I think the one that I'm like I would say it's probably my best piece of content was one of my actual more recent videos. It was a video I did in Columbus that I collabed with Nasher for. Are either of you familiar with it before I explain
Yep.
it?
Yep.
Okay, so basically what we did is we had 4 of us and we bought 2 ice baths, and the concept was we're working in teams of 2 against the other team. However, while I'm playing, Nasher, my teammate, has to sit in that freezing ice bath until I score to bail him out, sort of thing. So that video, I'd say, is probably the one I'm most proud of, just because I put a ton of effort into it, and it really turned out exactly how I envisioned, which was like super satisfying, especially because I jumped so many hurdles with that video, like issue after issue after issue, and at the end of the day, it came together really nicely. So that's one. The other one I would say would be that 30K video I did where I cut an inch off my stick every time I shot. That was just like that was to me that kind of marks the start of my like YouTube career, because every video before that, first of all, was edited on my iPhone. I only edited on my iPhone before that. Um, and even some videos after that, long form, are still on my iPhone. But that was the first video that I sat down and said, I'm going to make a YouTube video. All the rest were designed for TikTok, and maybe they ended up being 4 or 5 minutes. And so I threw them on YouTube too. But they were designed for TikTok. That was the first video that I ever did that was like, this is a YouTube video. And that one is kind of cool because more than any other video, when people tell me their favorite video I did, that's the one that people say. So that would be tied for first, I guess.
That's cool. Both great videos, and yeah, I love like the ice bath with Nasher, like finding hockey adjacent lanes that keep everybody interested, but it's
Mhm.
not just you training or stick handling or whatever it is. Like a lot of older kind of social media hockey content has been. So I love that avenue for you. And you touched on kind of editing on the iPhone there. I know you as a dude who loves his gadgets and his products and testing different things out and trying things. If you were to kind of start over today, start creating content for a different avenue or sport, what are some of the pieces or pieces of equipment that you would say, hey, this is what I need to get going? Is it just the iPhone to start, or is there some, I guess, tiers to that?
Yeah, yeah. So even, I mean, it is really funny because I only switched to using my PC for editing like at the beginning of 2025, like January, like no joke, like 9 months ago. Before that, I was full blown iPhone, and I was getting to the point where, first of all, I like thought I was had eye problems. Like I was about to go see an eye doctor because I was just like so locked in editing on my phone for 10 hours a day that like it was getting unhealthy. Like my screen time was strictly CapCut and CapCut only. Um, and I was getting like my eyes were getting fatigued. I was getting these headaches, and that's when I was like that, along with my phone overheating and like not being able to handle what I was trying to create anymore. That's what really got me to switch. But 100%, all you need is your iPhone, like and maybe a mic. I actually had the most ridiculous, and I still use this almost daily. I have an XLR mic, which has like this amplifier that you got to plug it into and whatnot. A lot of wires, a lot of connections. Well, I have an adapter, Jimmy rigged adapter to plug it directly into my phone, so I can do my voiceovers with my XLR mic on my iPhone, which is like unheard of. Nobody does that, but 100% you only need your phone. I think the microphone definitely does help with the quality as well, but even the quality on my iPhone camera is crazy. I mean, you look at people like Ryan Trahan, who like is exclusively filming their YouTube content to 50 million subscribers, filming on an iPhone. Like at the end of the day, I think people get really caught up in I need the best GoPro, I need the best microphones, I need these lav mics. It's like it's great to have those kind of things, but 100% like you don't need them at all.
Yeah, I totally agree, and I think, like you said, there's so much you can do on your phone today, regardless of the brand, really. But I was actually having a conversation with a buddy the other day, and maybe we just don't know, but we said it's not going to be that long until like a full feature film movie comes out shot on iPhone, and I can't wait for that
Yeah,
moment. I think
yeah,
that'll be so cool.
100%.
But last one from me here, Kazi, and obviously can't thank you enough for the time and the insights you've given here. What's next for you? What do you got lined up? What other events or sports or content series are you kind of brainstorming over there?
Yeah, for once, I don't have a million things on my calendar, and I'm kind of just sitting in this moment of enjoying it. This past year, I've been like on the go, one place after another, and it's been awesome. Like it's super fun, but like not many people talk about the side of like, all right, I kind of just want to be home, you know? So right now I'm kind of soaking in that and also, focusing on the long form stuff that I can film around home. I don't think I have too many events on my calendar right now. There's definitely some that I'd like to make it out to that I haven't really made the connections for just yet, or like I guess started that process. It's kind of funny because different brands do it very differently, but like some brands will have their events planned for like a year in advance. And like I could be at an event in a week from now and I won't know until, until the week of. So like it's kind of a day by day thing for me. I definitely have like my long term goals that I'm working towards and my steps to actually get there. But right now I'm kind of just chilling for a little bit and enjoying my time home for a little bit. And I'm sure we'll be back on the road pretty shortly here.
Absolutely.
Awesome. And then the very last thing we like to ask every guest is, do you have one piece of career advice that you would give to the audience?
Um, that's tough to like to think about one.
Putting you on the
Um,
spot.
Right, right. I mean, I think the best part about content creation for me is that it's an investment in myself more than anything else. Like rather than before I was doing my own content, I was creating content for businesses for for them to post. They were my boss, whatever. And it still is that structure a little bit um working with different brands and whatnot, but as a creator, like you're investing all of the time that you're putting into this is directly helping you, and it's sure it's helping these brands as well, but it's helping you more than anyone else. So I think that's one thing I would say. Another thing that I was kind of thinking about today is the phrase "fake it till you make it." That's a phrase that I always hated until like this last year or so, because I always looked at it like fake it, oh, be someone you're not, or like fake it as in like, make the craziest videos that are fake. And I come to realize that, or at least perceive it in a different way. For me, I kind of look at it as fake the confidence until you make it, until you actually have that confidence. So working with these different brands and pitching and dealing with negotiations and outreach and just creating content in general, all of this stuff has been stuff that I've learned within the last year or two, I guess. And obviously, I had no idea what I was doing. So, like, you're not going to have that confidence. But if you can fake that confidence and at least put it on for a little while, eventually you'll just start to adapt it and you will get comfortable and you will know what you're doing. So that's kind of, I guess that phrase is one just to kind of touch on fake it till you make it, but in the sense of, fake the confidence until you actually feel confident because eventually, you will.
I think that's a great way to look at it, and nobody can tell through your content when you were faking it because I said it before, man, but your content is as organic and authentic as it comes in hockey and
Appreciate
sports
it.
and social media in general. And again, I know I'll gas you up offline, but for all the listeners here, like if they're not following along yet, should be. Where can they find you online? Different social platforms there.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm Kazxi on just about everything. Kazxi. I think it's slightly different on all of them. Or if you look up Kazxi or Kaz Hockey, I'm sure I'll come up there.
You'll find him. You'll find him. But honestly, can't thank you enough for the time here, man. It was great to hear a little bit more about your journey. Excited to be your first podcast here, and we'll see you soon. All right.
Absolutely, man. Thanks for having me.